Welcome to the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and today I'm joined by my admissions colleague, Whitney Kestner, for a conversation about kind of where we are in the application cycle. Whitney, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you. How are you doing? How's everything?
I'm well. It is fall in Charlottesville, and some might say this is the best season. Temperatures are a little cooler, football season, lots going on around school. And actually, just recently we celebrated Darden's 70th birthday. So lots of festivities.
Yeah, the 70th anniversary of the first day of class, as I was told. So that snuck up on me. I got to be honest with you. That was not circled on my calendar, but good to know that this time next year I can celebrate the 71st
Exactly.
birthday of Darden. So obviously, this is an exciting time of year. We're in the midst of our early action round, interviewing candidates, and also we have round one right around the corner. What do you enjoy, at least from the application process angle, what do you enjoy about this time of year?
Yeah, great question. So, as you just mentioned, there's sort of this overlap. So, early action candidates, we are reading their applications, we are interviewing. And so I love both of that. I love reading applications, reading those essay prompts, responses, hearing from recommendations, and then to get to spend time with candidates. Our interviewing is my favorite part of this process, getting to sit down with a candidate, whether it's by Zoom or in person, and getting to have a conversation with them for 30 to 45 minutes and learn more about their background. So I just truly love the interviewing part of this. And then for those that are working on a round one application, we're talking with them, sharing application tips. So we're kind of talking with candidates at many different stages of the process. And I think that really keeps it interesting.
And this is the time where we're also doing some recruiting. We're out there on the road. We have colleagues who are hosting dinners, in-person chats. We've also got some admissions receptions coming up in select markets. In your opinion, what's the value of attending these kinds of events from a prospective student standpoint?
Yeah, I think there's enormous value, just that touch point, getting to speak with perhaps a member of our admissions team or another member of the Darden faculty or staff in some of these markets. We also have alumni oftentimes joining us. So our colleagues are hosting some small group dinners with a couple of alumni. So what a great chance to share a meal and learn more about their experience at Darden. You mentioned some of our admissions and alumni receptions. Those are fantastic. We bring together prospective students and alumni and introduce them to each other, and really giving the prospective students a chance to hear from those alumni, learn more about their experience at Darden, but also give them a sense of the alumni network in that part of the country or world. And while we're not able to visit every city, we've got several more coming up in the U.S. And our colleagues just finished a wonderful trip in India, visiting Mumbai, Bangalore, and Delhi. So we are out and about.
Yeah, we have a colleague who just wrapped up a trip to South America as
That's
well.
right.
So trying to cover as much ground as we can. There's also opportunities to come to Charlottesville. And as you mentioned, this is a wonderful time of year in Charlottesville. Fall is maybe peak season here in Charlottesville. We are hosting these Day with Darden events. In your opinion, what's the value of coming and spending some time on grounds?
Yes, for those who can come visit, we always welcome you and do feel it's such a really meaningful way to understand more about the community, the culture, the learning environment here at Darden. I do want to say that we know not everybody can come visit, and so we do try to have so many opportunities to engage with us virtually, to learn more about Darden through some of our asynchronous opportunities, the Experience Darden podcast, as you well know. But for those who are able to come, we have class visits on most days that classes are in session. And then we have this series of Day with Darden events, which is additional programming. Kicks off with Sunday evening panel with some of our student leaders, and then out in Charlottesville at one of our favorite hotspots for dinner, and then programming all throughout the day on Monday, including a class visit, tour, getting lunch with more students, and then also hearing from Jeff McNeil recognition, our career center, an admissions panel. So we try to hit on a lot of those really important elements to give people a feel for a day in the life and more about our people and our community.
Yeah, it's a full couple of days. It's sort of the one I attended this past weekend, it was kind of Sunday evening programming that kind of into Monday. And it was so much fun. I think for a prospective student, you get so much information about the experience here. You have a chance to make so many connections, and you also get to spend time in Charlottesville, which, as you know, Whitney, is a big part of being a student at the Darden School of Business because, all of our students have kind of picked up and moved here. The school is not only a place where they go to school. It's also a social hub for them too. But Charlottesville plays a big part in their experience too. All the great restaurants and things to do here. I'm curious. You've been in Charlottesville for a long time. Any tips or anything you would recommend for folks if they're coming to grounds or coming to spend some time, maybe for a class visit or a day with Darden?
Yes, there are so many things. No matter what your interests are, I think you'll find plenty to do. But getting back to it's the fall season, the leaves are starting to change and some cooler temperatures. We have so much history, and so there are opportunities to learn more about the history of Charlottesville through Thomas Jefferson with Monticello. There's a wonderful Monticello trail that I just walked the other day with a friend, and kind of takes you into the woods and just a really beautiful and scenic walk. And so opportunities to learn more about Charlottesville, as I mentioned, to go on Central Campus and potentially do a tour of Central Grounds with the Rotunda, the Academical Village, get a feel for the broader University of Virginia. It's also football season, and so a lot in addition to the other fall sports. So whether your travels bring you here on a weekend, if the team is in town, but there's also soccer and field hockey and women's volleyball. Went to a match on Saturday, so tons going on, lots of fun things, and I think Charlottesville is really at its best. When we have so many activities, so many people out and about enjoying the beautiful weather.
Yeah, a lot of great outdoor activities. Tremendous number of restaurants per capita. I mean, there is no shortage of great places to eat here. So if you're a foodie, it's a wonderful place. And if you just enjoy being outside, I think one of my favorite things, and as you know, I'm a public transportation person. I'm also a pretty committed pedestrian. Oftentimes we'll take the train to Charlottesville and we'll walk to Darden from the train station. Now, maybe don't recommend that for everybody, but what you get to see if you make that walk, you get to go through the corner, which is kind of a social hub for undergraduate students here. It's a lot of
And graduate.
and graduate. And so you get to do that. You get to walk by the Rotunda and Academic Village, and you can even have lunch out there, which is something I enjoy doing, getting a sandwich and just having lunch. And then you continue. You can walk by the Fralin Art Museum. You go past Lambeth Field. JPJ, the football practice facility. I'm a sports nerd, so it's cool to me to get to see where the Who's play basketball and obviously practice football and a number of the sports fields that are also on North Grounds. To me, and I got some pushback from our executive MBA and part-time MBA students when I shared this walking tour prior to the start of school. To me, it's a couple miles, but you get so much information. You get to see so much. So you have a little bit of downtime. You're taking the train. Consider that. So that is my nickel tour of Charlottesville. So I want to use this time to also talk about some of the new things we've added for this admission cycle that we want to draw prospective students' attention to. One thing we've added is a number of application fee waiver offers. Are there a few that you might want to highlight in this conversation?
Yes. So we know that this is a big endeavor, applying to business school, the research, the potential travel, applying, then deposits and tuition and all those things that you're managing through. And so when possible, we're always seeking ways that we can make this process more affordable, more inclusive. And so we did announce some new application fee waivers this application cycle. So we are offering fee waivers. We've long offered to those who've served in the military, We also have fee waivers for first generation students. And then, as you indicated, a new engagement fee waiver. And so if you attend any of Darden hosted on grounds events, so the Day with Darden, class visit, things of that nature, we're pleased to offer you a fee waiver. Some of our partner events that when we visited some cities this summer, and then we'll continue through the fall. If Darden is present, we will offer a fee waiver as well. And then also for some virtual programming. So if you participate in one of our virtual webinars, and that includes Day with Darden, our virtual Day with Darden, we are also pleased to offer a fee waiver. So we've detailed this out on our FAQ page. So please, go there to get the most latest and greatest information. And then if you participate in one of these identified events, then we will follow up and confirm that you do have an application fee waiver.
Yeah, take note on the virtual events in particular. It's select virtual events, and it actually, I think this is correct, Whitney, that it'll actually, in the event title and the event information, you'll see if it is actually fee waiver eligible. Do I have that right?
You do, yes. We just want to be as clear as possible.
All right. And so the website's always a great resource. We just want to cover a few of those for you just to know what's out there. But for the full
Yeah.
listing, as Whitney mentioned, check out the website. Also, want to talk, we've had a test waiver request process for a number of years,
Mhm.
but we've now added a new diagnostic that helps candidates figure out maybe they can make a strong case for a test waiver or perhaps not, helps them sort of gauge whether they would be a strong candidate for a test waiver. You want to talk a little bit about that and maybe why we introduced this?
Sure. Thanks for that, Brett. And just to reiterate that this process that I'm going to refer to is for our full-time candidates, and so we introduced the test waiver process several years ago, and really this is for candidates who have alternative evidence to show their readiness for business school. We very intentionally separated the process, so asking to be reviewed for a test waiver is completely separate from your application to Darden. And so the outcome of one does not necessarily dictate the outcome of the other. And so we've had many questions, as you can imagine, over the years, and we've developed our FAQ to help candidates understand what we're looking for, and then this new iteration, this diagnostic tool. So if this is something that you're interested in, think you could be a good candidate for, definitely check out this tool and sort of add in some information, and then it'll give you the likelihood. You may be a good candidate or you may not. You can still move forward and request an application, or excuse me, request a test waiver. But this is just something that we thought would be helpful to candidates to see if this is something they could be a potential fit for.
Yeah, we've always had a pretty extensive FAQ on our website as well, which I think is a good place to also refer if you're thinking about the test waiver. And as Whitney mentioned, the test waiver is really there for candidates who feel like they have a pretty compelling set of alternative evidence that will help the admissions committee kind of assess, is a test score necessary to understand this person's readiness for the experience here? Whitney, there's a lot of considerations that go into a test waiver. Some of them are strategic, right? Thinking about both the admissions process as well as the scholarship process. How do you encourage candidates to think about whether a test waiver would make sense? What are some things that you encourage candidates to consider here?
Yeah, a graduate standardized test is one piece of many parts of your application package. And so all of those different components of the application help us understand more about your background, your skills, your potential to be successful in a top MBA program. And so, depending on your background, you may have more or less, data points to kind of show that ability to do quantitative work or to highlight your communication skills. And so, as somebody thinks about a test waiver, we want them to think about their full application package. And as they have all of these different things that they are communicating to the committee, sometimes a test can be a really helpful additional data point. It is generally a more recent data point for us. They're the different components of a graduate standardized test, the verbal, the quantitative, sometimes the writing section. And so it can give us just another picture. It enables us to think about that candidate across the wide population of candidates that we see from all over the world. And so it can be helpful. At the same time, we have so many talented students that perhaps have already kind of demonstrated that readiness, that aptitude in other ways through a graduate degree, a really strong undergraduate record, their professional experience, a combination of those. So it's not that silver bullet. I don't think it's ever going to be that easy. And what I like to remind students is that we give you a lot of information and we seek to give you a lot of options so that you can then take that, think about your background, all that you've done, and then determine what's the best course forward. How to, being as objective as you can and strategic. How do I put together my strongest application, knowing, my academic record, my professional experiences, the things that I've gotten involved in my community? How does this all come together?
Yeah, there's the admissions process, which you've talked about here, but there's also the scholarship process, which I think is also important to keep in mind. The admissions process tends to think about everything in your application, whereas the scholarship process narrows in on sort of merit indicators, things like, GPA, graduate degree, standardized test score can play a role there too. So sometimes for candidates, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Sometimes I think about if somebody says like the scholarship is going to be a really impactful part of their MBA decision, you want to make sure that you're giving the scholarship committee perhaps as much to consider. And so that can also be an advantage of having a test score. It's certainly possible to receive a scholarship with a test waiver, but I guess it's maybe a little bit of a strategic conversation. How do you encourage candidates to think about that?
Yeah, really just underscoring what you say and in terms of thinking about what are some of those priorities for you and as you think about your MBA experience, what you're looking for, how you're planning to finance it. And then, you know, we're just never, until we kind of get to that application, we just are not going to know all the different components of your background. And so it can be difficult for us to make a recommendation. And so that's where I think it is really an opportunity for the candidate to take in all of this information, do their research, and then based on their goals, their background, make that determination for themselves. Easier said than done.
Yes, a lot of this is what's going to allow you to feel, confident when you press submit on your application. You feel like you're putting your best foot forward. You're submitting a strong application, and really by a strong application, we mean an application you feel confident and you feel like, all right, I've given this my best shot. So, Whitney,
Yeah.
we talked about test waiver. We talked about standardized tests generally. We've also talked about the application fee, but I want to make a little bit of time here for some application tips. So I don't want to get too carried away with standardized tests. I want candidates to remember, right? There's a big picture here. It's just one piece of information to your point. How do you encourage candidates to think about the application process generally?
Yeah, we oftentimes will talk about this as a narrative exercise, and so there is, this is your story. There's so much that you get to share with us, what you're proud of, what you've accomplished, what your goals and passions are, and so, um, doing your best not to hone in on each individual aspect or section of the application, but reminding yourself that it is this full opportunity to tell that broader story. There's so much that you as an applicant can share with us, and what you want to highlight, what's really those most salient aspects of your story, and then don't forget that you have a letter of recommendation, somebody other than yourself who can be just a tremendous champion for you. I think those letters of recommendation can be incredibly powerful to highlight some times that you have taken on leadership roles that where you've really shown initiative, how you've worked on a team, taken on, tackled big challenges, and so really remembering that there is this additional person who can offer so much insight into your candidacy.
Yeah, I love the point that you made there about sort of thinking about how all the parts of the application work together. One of the things I like to share with candidates as they're approaching the application process is take just a little bit of time, read through the application, get a sense of what we're asking about, but then maybe take 10, 15 minutes to think about, okay, at the end of reading this application, what do you want to make sure the admissions committee knows about you? And develop that list, whatever might be there. And then think about how, as you work through the application, think about how the various elements of the application help you advance those priorities and ultimately tell the story you want to tell. I always encourage candidates to think about the application as an initial introduction to who you are. You sort of think about how that fits within the flow of our review process. A couple members of our team are going to read it and say, "Hey, is this somebody that we want to invite to interview?" Right? Ideally, the application gets us interested and say, "This might be somebody that we want to get to know a little bit more. Let's invite them to interview." And then the interview becomes a great opportunity for you to really deepen the story that you've introduced through your application. I think it's an opportunity for candidates to really hone in on the why of their story. How do you encourage candidates to think about how the interview fits within the overall application process, Whitney?
Yeah, the interview is, as I mentioned earlier, that chance to have a conversation with a member of our community, whether it's a member of the admissions team or one of our second years who's participating in our elective class. So, what better way to bring your story to life, to highlight those things that you're really proud of, your accomplishments? I find the interview is such a great chance to just get a sense of someone's interpersonal skills, where they get excited. It's where we learn about more about what they want to do after they graduate and how Darden can really help them get there. I mean, that's really cool to hear someone talk about, what they're really excited about, the impact that they want to make, and how they see classes that Darden offers, global experiences, learning in this high engagement, discussion-based classroom environment, how they believe that's going to help them for what's next. And I think that's so much why we love what we do is we're really getting to see these students make this incredible just jump in terms of from a professional standpoint, but also personally gaining confidence, gaining clarity about what they're really um, uh, the impact again where they really want to make their mark, and I think that's something that just the power of this MBA degree, and particularly from Darden.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about how we interview is, as interviewers, we do not read an applicant's application in preparation for the interview. We also do not have a copy of their resume in front of us, and that allows the interviewer to come to this interaction without a lot of formed ideas about who the applicant is or their strength as a candidate. And so we're really there to listen and to learn more about you directly from you. As a candidate, that's a tremendous opportunity. Of course, you want to practice and prepare. I mean, you have 30-ish minutes or so to tell your story. We're going to have questions. We're going to give you a structure for the conversation, but you should really be there to tell us kind of who you are, personally, what you've done academically, what you've done professionally. We're going to get into, why an MBA and why Darden and the full-time program and how this fits into your career goals. But do keep in mind that question, why. I think of the interview as a place where we can start to get a sense of what stitches together the story, the reasons why you've made the decisions that you've made, what's motivated you, what your values have been. That can be harder to get a sense of in the application, which is really broad, but not typically as deep as what we'll get into in an interview. And so, in the best versions of the application process, candidates are really leveraging both of these elements, the application to introduce themselves and the interview to really deepen that story, to kind of tell a very full picture. People always ask, what makes for a strong application? Whitney, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this, because to me, it's someone who really knows their story. They've done that work before they've even applied. They've reflected. They have a sense of their priorities. They know what they want to communicate. They understand their motivations. They've gotten interested in Darden beyond just sort of surface level website information. They have something that's sort of personally motivating to them, and kind of have a very clear picture of why the MBA and how it fits in their career goals. What to you makes a strong candidate or a strong application?
I completely agree. We meet people from, all these different backgrounds who've done so many things and overcome challenges and, you know, started businesses, made just a real impact in their communities and in their work. And so just amazing candidates, amazing people. And no matter what someone's story is, when it is authentic to them, when it is so true to themselves, and it's not, they're not focusing on how they may, be distinctive with other candidates or how this may compare, but when they really know themselves, are able to convey that through the different pieces, the different parts of our application process, it is amazing. It sounds, very ambiguous, but when you see it, when you interact, when you read, when you meet somebody who really has a strong sense of self and knows themselves and can articulate that, it really comes through.
Absolutely. And that's one of the great things about our job when we're reading someone's application and interviewing them and getting to know them through both the research process and the application process. We're really trying to imagine who they're going to be in a Darden classroom, how they're going to show up outside of class. Perhaps they're going to be involved with a club or organization, maybe a leader on grounds. All these different ways they can contribute to the community, what kind of classmate and teammate they're going to be. The case method really requires people who are both interested in speaking up and participating, but also very interested in learning from other people. And so these are some of the things that are on our minds. But hopefully, as candidates listen to this, they realize it's not just GPA and test score. There's so much more that goes into this. And we're really trying to get to know somebody as a whole person.
Yes, agreed.
All right, Whitney, last question for you. Any final pieces of advice, something you would encourage candidates to think about? Here we are on the doorstep of round one. Any advice?
As much as possible, have fun with this process. What an incredible opportunity you are considering. 2 years to really invest in yourself, to learn so much, to meet people from all over the world, to grow and stretch. It's just phenomenal. And so we know that there are aspects of the admissions process that can feel a little daunting at times, and can be a long process too, but just remind yourself why you're looking to get this degree, the opportunities that can come from an MBA, the people you're going to meet. It's all really exciting. And so really applaud all of you for taking this step and considering this opportunity to further not just your education, but just really this opportunity to grow as a person. So have fun, enjoy it, and know that we're definitely very excited to get to know you through it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There's a lot to celebrate along this journey. Just taking the step of applying to business school deserves to be celebrated and acknowledged. And we so look forward to getting to know everyone. Again, reading applications, interviewing, it's a tremendous privilege to make connections, to get to know these people from all over the world who are looking to come here to the Darden School of Business. So, Whitney, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me, Brett.